In the heart of West Africa, under the golden glow of the midday sun, the Mali Empire thrived. The Niger River snaked through the land like a lifeline, feeding the markets, farmlands, and bustling cities. In the middle of this empire, a young boy named Musa walked through the marketplace, his wide eyes taking in the world around him. Traders from distant lands shouted their prices in languages Musa barely understood. Gold glittered in the sun, and the aroma of spices and roasted meats filled the air. Even as a child, Musa could sense the greatness of the land he called home. Someday, he murmured to himself, I will help make Mali even greater. Musa's uncle, an elder statesman in the court, was his teacher and guide. On this day, they sat beneath the shade of a great baobab tree. Musa, his uncle began, do you know why Mali prospers? Because of the gold, uncle, Musa replied confidently. His uncle chuckled. Gold is only part of it. It's also our unity, our strength as a people. Sunjata Keita built this empire on trust and loyalty. Remember, young one, an empire is not held together by wealth alone. Musa nodded, though his gaze drifted to the caravans of traders arriving from far-off lands. He dreamed of adventures beyond the borders of Mali, of treasures hidden in the sands and wisdom held in ancient cities. Years passed, and Musa grew into a capable young man. The Mali Empire was now ruled by a Mansa named Muhammad ibn Ku, a ruler with an insatiable curiosity about the world beyond their shores. One day, in the grand hall of the palace, Muhammad announced his ambitious plan. I will sail the great waters of the Atlantic, he declared to his council, his voice echoing off the marble walls. I will find what lies beyond the horizon. Musa stood silently among the advisors, his face a mix of admiration and concern. The ocean is vast, Mansa, one elder warned. The risks are great. All great journeys begin with risks, Muhammad retorted. I will prepare a fleet to explore the unknown. Within weeks, the empire buzzed with activity. Hundreds of ships were built, and brave sailors volunteered for the expedition. Musa watched in awe as the preparations unfolded, not knowing how deeply this journey would change his own destiny. Of the 200 ships that set sail, only a few returned, their sailors shaken and weary. But Muhammad was undeterred. We will send a greater fleet, he announced. This time, I will lead it myself. Before he departed, he called Musa to the palace. They stood in the courtyard, the setting sun casting long shadows across the stone. Musa, Muhammad said, placing a firm hand on the young man's shoulder, I am trusting you with our empire. Lead our people until I return. Musa bowed deeply. I will serve Mali with all my heart, Mansa. And with that, Muhammad and his fleet disappeared into the Atlantic. Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. The empire began to murmur. Will he ever return? A merchant whispered. Who will lead us if he does not? Asked the farmer. The weight of leadership fell heavily on Musa's shoulders. He ruled cautiously at first, unsure of how long he would hold this role. But as the years passed, the people began to look to him not as a caretaker, but as their true leader. It was a quiet morning when the council of elders approached Musa. In the grand palace hall, they knelt before him. Musa, their leader said, it is time. You have proven yourself worthy. Mali needs a Mansa. Will you take the crown? Musa hesitated, his heart pounding. He thought of the stories of Sunjata Keita, of the legacy he would now carry. I accept, he said, his voice steady. The coronation was a grand affair. Musicians played their finest songs, and the people of Mali celebrated for days. Yet, even in the midst of the joy, whispers of doubt lingered. They say Muhammad never intended to return, one noble said. Perhaps Musa took the throne for himself, another murmured. Musa heard these rumors but paid them no mind. His focus was on Mali, on strengthening the empire for the generations to come. As Mansa, Musa quickly proved himself to be a leader like no other. He traveled across the empire, meeting with villagers, traders, and soldiers. He rebuilt cities and established schools. Timbuktu, once a small trading post, became a center of learning and culture under his reign. In the bustling market of Timbuktu, Musa stood with his advisors. "Build a mosque here," he instructed, pointing to a clearing. "And over there, a library. Let the world know that Mali is a land of knowledge and faith." His vision extended beyond Mali's borders. Gold caravans stretched from the deserts of Africa to the bustling markets of Cairo and Mecca. Mali's wealth became legendary, and Musa's name was spoken with awe in far-off lands. Despite his success, the story of Muhammad's voyage lingered. In the quiet corners of the palace, Musa often wondered what had become of his predecessor. "Do you think he found new lands?" he once asked his trusted advisor. The advisor hesitated. Perhaps, or perhaps the ocean claimed him, as it has claimed so many others. Musa sighed, his thoughts heavy. Whatever the truth, the voyage had left its mark on him. He carried its mystery like a shadow, always present, but never fully understood. Musa's rule was not without challenges. Rival kingdoms sought to test Mali's strength, and internal disputes threatened the empire's harmony. But Musa faced these trials with wisdom and courage. In one such moment, he addressed his council. "An empire is like a river," he said. "When it flows together, it nourishes all who depend on it. But when it breaks apart, it becomes a flood that destroys everything in its path. We must remain united." His words inspired his people, and his actions backed them up. He negotiated with rivals, built alliances, and ensured that Mali remained a beacon of stability in a turbulent world. As the years passed, Musa's influence grew. He became not just a ruler, but a symbol of what was possible. Traders spoke of his wisdom, scholars praised his generosity, and poets wrote of his grandeur. One evening, as Musa stood on the palace balcony, he looked out over the bustling city. The golden light of the setting sun bathed the streets, and the sound of laughter and music filled the air. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. "Mali's greatness will echo through history." The grand caravan of Mansa Musa entered Cairo in a spectacle of unimaginable wealth. Hundreds of camels loaded with gold, servants dressed in fine silks, and musicians playing joyful tunes announced their arrival. Musa, riding on a majestic white horse, was at the center of it all, his golden crown shining under the sun. The streets of Cairo buzzed with excitement. Traders, nobles, and commoners alike gathered to witness the opulence of this ruler from the faraway land of Mali. Al-Nasir Muhammad, the Sultan of Egypt, had heard tales of Musa's wealth and generosity, but even he was unprepared for the display before him. Musa was soon introduced to Ibn Amir Hajib, the governor of the Carafa district. The two men exchanged gifts, Musa giving large quantities of gold, and Hajib presenting rare artifacts and fine fabrics. Over the course of their stay, Hajib and Musa developed a close friendship. Musa spoke openly about Mali, its wealth, and its culture. "Gold may shine, my friend," Musa often said, "but it is the kindness we leave behind that truly glitters in the hearts of people." During their 3 months in Cairo, Musa's generosity became legendary. He gave gold to the poor, merchants, and even strangers he met in passing. He visited mosques, markets, and neighborhoods, leaving gifts wherever he went. His actions left such a lasting impression that they disrupted Cairo's economy, causing gold to lose its value for years. On October 18th, Musa and his entourage left Cairo to join the official caravan heading to Mecca. The journey was long and filled with challenges, but Musa's determination never wavered. As they approached Medina, Musa's generosity continued. He handed out gold coins to pilgrims and townsfolk, spreading joy wherever he went. When they finally arrived in Mecca, Musa stood in awe of the holy city. He fell to his knees, whispering, "All praise is due to Allah, who has brought me to this sacred land." While in Mecca, Musa performed the rituals of Hajj with utmost devotion. He prayed at the Kaaba, fasted, and gave generously to the people of the city. However, not all moments were peaceful. One evening in the Masjid al-Haram, a heated argument broke out between Musa's men and a group of Turkic pilgrims over seating arrangements. Swords were drawn, and chaos threatened to erupt. Musa, hearing the commotion, rushed to the scene. He stepped between the two groups, raising his hands for silence. "My brothers," he said calmly, "what honor is there in fighting in the house of Allah? A wise man knows when to draw his sword and when to sheath it. Today, we sheath it." His words cooled the tempers, and both sides retreated. That night, Musa reminded his entourage, the greatest strength is not in the blade, but in the patience to avoid its use. After completing the Hajj, Musa and his entourage lingered in Mecca for some time. The journey back to Mali began with hope, but soon turned into a trial of survival. Traveling separately from the main caravan, Musa's group was struck by misfortune. They passed through cold deserts and rocky terrains, facing starvation and exhaustion. Bandits attacked in the dead of night, stealing supplies and leaving many injured. By the time they reached Suez, the caravan was in shambles. Many had perished, and their once glorious wealth was nearly gone. In their hour of desperation, Musa turned to his men. "Riches come and go, but faith remains. If we trust in Allah and in each other, we will endure." Despite his unshakable resolve, the caravan ran out of money. Musa was forced to sell much of what they had purchased in Cairo before the Hajj. He borrowed heavily from local merchants, going into debt to keep his people alive. One of these merchants, Siraj al-Din, showed great kindness, offering Musa resources on credit. When the group finally reached Cairo again, Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad welcomed Musa with gifts and provisions. "Your generosity once enriched our land," the Sultan said. "Now it is our turn to repay you." Meeting Abu Ishaq al-Sahili. On the road back to Mali, Musa encountered a poet and scholar from Andalusia named Abu Ishaq al-Sahili. The poet, known for his eloquence and deep knowledge of Islamic law, recited verses that moved Musa to tears. "Your words are like rivers, refreshing the soul," Musa told him. "Mali needs minds like yours. Will you return with me to my empire?" Al-Sahili agreed, and Musa also invited several Maliki jurists and scholars to join him. Together, they would help transform Mali into a center of learning and culture. As the caravan traveled through West Africa, the cities of Gao and Timbuktu came into view. The people of these cities had heard of Mansa Musa's generosity and wisdom, and many welcomed him with open arms. However, there are conflicting accounts of how these cities came under Mali's rule. One tale, recorded by the historian Ibn Khaldun, claims that Musa's general Sagmanja conquered Gao. Another suggests that Gao had been under Mali's influence since the reign of Mansa Sakura. Yet another version says the cities submitted to Musa peacefully as he passed through with his caravan. Whatever the truth, Musa treated the people of Gao and Timbuktu with respect. He ensured their loyalty not through force, but through fairness and generosity. "A kingdom is not built by fear," he told his advisors. "It is built by trust and justice." When Musa finally returned to Mali, his empire welcomed him with celebrations. The streets of Niani, Mali's capital, were filled with cheering crowds, musicians, and dancers. Musa, now weathered from his journey, stood before his people and raised his hands in gratitude. "My people," he said, "this journey has tested us. We lost wealth, but we gained wisdom. We faced death, but we found life in each other. Mali's strength is not in its gold, but in its people." The lessons of the Hajj stayed with Musa for the rest of his reign. He continued to bring scholars, architects, and traders to Mali, ensuring that the empire thrived as a center of culture, learning, and faith. Musa's journey to Mecca was more than a pilgrimage. It was a testament to his character. He showed the world that true wealth lies in generosity, humility, and faith. Though the gold he gave away caused economic ripples, the wisdom and kindness he spread left a legacy that endured far beyond his reign. As Musa often said, the wealth of a man is not in his possessions, but in the goodness he shares with the world. The city of Timbuktu lay at the edge of the vast Sahara Desert, a bustling hub of trade, culture, and scholarship. When Mansa Musa first arrived there after his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca, the city was already thriving. But under his reign, It would become the jewel of the Mali Empire. As Musa's caravan entered the city, merchants and scholars gathered to catch a glimpse of the famous Mansa. Musa's arrival brought more than wealth, it brought change. In the center of the city, Musa addressed the gathered crowd. Timbuktu will not only be a place of trade, he declared, his voice steady and commanding, but a beacon of learning, faith, and prosperity for all of Africa. Among the crowd, whispers spread. The Mansa has big dreams, one merchant said, and the power to make them real, replied another. One of Musa's first acts was to commission the Jingareber Mosque. He brought architects from faraway lands, Andalusia in Spain and Cairo in Egypt. Among them was Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, the Andalusian poet and architect Musa had met on his journey home from Mecca. Standing on the sandy grounds of Timbuktu, Musa described his vision to al-Sahili. "I want this mosque to stand as long as the sands of the desert," Musa said. "It should reflect the strength of our faith and the wealth of our empire." Al-Sahili nodded, already sketching designs in the dirt with a stick. As the construction began, Musa visited the site regularly. He often spoke to the workers, encouraging them. "A wall is only as strong as the hands that build it," he told them. "Work together, and the result will be unbreakable." Years later, the mosque would still stand as a testament to Musa's vision, its earthen walls blending seamlessly with the desert landscape. With the mosque complete, Musa turned his attention to education. The University of Sankore, an ancient institution in Timbuktu, fallen into disrepair. Musa gathered scholars, jurists, astronomers, and mathematicians from across Africa and the Middle East to restore it. One day, Musa visited the university with his advisors. Students sat cross-legged in the courtyard, listening to a scholar explain the movements of the stars. "Knowledge is the gold of the mind," Musa said, watching the young faces light up with curiosity. "It enriches a man far more than any coin." Under Musa's reign, the university flourished. Manuscripts filled its libraries, covering topics ranging from religion to medicine to mathematics. Scholars from distant lands traveled to Timbuktu, eager to learn and share their wisdom. Merchants in the city spoke of the transformation. "Timbuktu is no longer just a marketplace," one trader said. "It is a city of ideas." News of Timbuktu's wealth and knowledge spread far beyond the borders of the Mali Empire. Traders from Venice, Granada, and Genoa began adding Timbuktu to their maps. They arrived with manufactured goods, fine textiles, tools, and weapons, eager to exchange them for Mali's gold. In the bustling markets, the sounds of bartering filled the air. A Venetian merchant held up a bolt of silk. "For this, I ask only a few coins of gold," he said. A Malian trader laughed. "Gold flows here like the river," he replied, "but we will trade fairly." Musa ensured that Mali's trade routes were well protected. He stationed guards along the roads and built rest stops for weary travelers. "A safe journey brings good business," he often said, reminding his advisors. And good business brings prosperity for all. In 1330, disaster struck. The kingdom of Masi invaded Timbuktu, capturing the city and threatening the stability of the Mali Empire. The news reached Musa as he sat in his court in Niani. "Mansa," a messenger said breathlessly, "Timbuktu has fallen to the Masi." Musa's face darkened, but his resolve was clear. "The lion does not retreat when its den is threatened," he said. "We will take back what is ours." Musa gathered his generals and devised a plan. His army marched to Timbuktu, reclaiming the city and driving out the invaders. Once the city was secure, Musa ordered the construction of a stone fort and ramparts to protect it from future attacks. Standing atop the newly built fort, Musa addressed his soldiers. "You fought not for gold, but for our people and our legacy. Mali owes you its thanks." As the years passed, Mansa Musa's health began to decline. He often spoke of his journey to Mecca, reflecting on the lessons it had taught him. Gold fades, cities crumble, but faith and knowledge endure, he told his son Magan, who often sat by his side. One day, Musa summoned his advisors and family to his chamber. His voice was weaker now, but but his words carried the weight of a lifetime of wisdom. Mali must remain united, he said. The strength of an empire is not in its wealth, but in its people. A single grain of sand is small, but together they form the vast desert. Musa expressed his desire to abdicate the throne and return to Mecca, where he hoped to spend his remaining days in prayer and reflection. But fate had other plans. Before he could make the journey, Musa fell gravely ill. On his deathbed, he whispered to his son, "Carry the torch, Magan. Lead with wisdom, not greed. Mali's greatness is in your hands." Scene 7. A legacy that endures. When Mansa Musa passed away, the entire empire mourned. The streets of Niani filled with people paying their respects, and prayers were held in mosques across Mali. Musa's successor, Magan, took the throne, but the memory of Musa's reign lingered. His impact on Mali's economy, culture, and education was unparalleled. In Timbuktu, scholars continued to gather at the University of Sankore, carrying on the legacy of learning that Musa had championed. Travelers from across the world still marveled at the Jinguereber Mosque, a symbol of Mali's enduring faith and resilience. And in the hearts of his people, Musa's words remained. The wealth of a man is not in his gold, but in the good he leaves behind.